Welcome to the How Do We Grow From Here podcast, where we empower individuals by reframing everyday challenges through fresh perspectives and thoughtful discussion. So here we grow.
All right, welcome. We are excited to have none other than our very own Dr. Roshni Rao with us on the How Do We Grow From Here podcast, where we empower individuals by reframing everyday challenges through fresh perspectives and thoughtful discussions. We are your hosts, Clifton Chambry and
Antonio Boone.
So here we grow. Dr. Roshni Rao.
Yes.
Thank you for being with us today. We're excited to have none other than a mom, a spouse, an advocate, an educator, a talented human. I got to learn more about some of your other talents because you just are such an intellectually sound human. And the way that you share your perspectives with others and connect with others is really valuable. So we're grateful to have you here today. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you both for having me here.
Absolutely.
It's such an honor. A little bit about myself. So I arrived here in the US as an international student and scholar about 15 years or so ago with the hopes of becoming a scientist. And during that time, I had no clue that there were other sort of career paths because I had no exposure to it. Fast forward to a few years later, 7 years ago to be precise, and I was still a scientist in a laboratory at the US Food and Drug Administration doing immunology at the bench. And then I had an epiphany and a moment of truth where I wanted to know what I could do with my career. And I, with a windy sort of perspective, ended up in a career path that I had no idea even existed until I saw the job description. So what I do right now is help other people, PhDs and postdocs, in their journey, similar to how I was. I had no idea, and now I'm able to help other people and create programs in the way that I work for other people as well. But at the core of who I am also a mom to an 8-year-old, and I say that because that's who brings me peace and joy and love. Yeah. And it centers my work and it centers me as a human being as well. So professional, mom, on the side, I love music. I've always played music. I like to write poetry and spoken word, and I've performed it here in the Baltimore area as well.
Really?
And I also was in a show called Listen to Your Mother, where it's a performance where you write a script and then you audition, get selected, and then perform it about motherhood and those kinds of stories. So if I were in a different life, I would probably be on the artistic, creative side more so.
Okay.
So I don't know how I ended up as a scientist, but that's a huge part of the side of me that gets joy and feels purposeful as well, is anything artistic and creative.
Gotcha.
And I love to build stuff, whether that's programs or an idea or build other people. I love it all.
Yeah, it's interesting. I realized this morning I had like a rocky chair. And I was like, I'm not doing this. I had to tighten. I was like, I like doing stuff like this.
The hands
it's real
on,
small,
yeah.
Real small.
Yeah.
And it gives me some sort of fulfillment. So
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your story. It's really fitting to what our conversations are about, and growth, and really thinking about how do we work through challenges. And oftentimes, it seems like we are on an island sometimes, and much of your story is in connection with other people, it sounds like. So I really find that interesting too, and it makes me wonder about this, perspective of I could do bad all by myself. I don't need nobody else, right? Can you help me understand what your perspective from that is and what you think about that?
So the core of what you're asking is that can we grow and can we build a purposeful life without relationships, or no man's an island? We've heard that phrasing before. That's the core of what you're asking, right?
If that's what you're getting from it.
Well, that's what I'm getting from it, is that foundationally, everything that I've ever done, anything that I've touched that I feel has had some meaning and purpose has been related to my connections with other people. I am not a solo artist and never have been. whether that was in the science work in my previous life when we were in the lab, the way I got support, the way I got a morale boost, the way in which I was able to go through a PhD program, which can be really rigorous, is because of the connections of the other folks that were with me at that same time.
Yeah.
That's also where I met my husband as well. So people have been the essence and core of every step of the way. That's been hard, but also in good times and bad. People and my connections and relationships have emboldened me and empowered me in my job searches, for instance. So when I was trying to figure out what to do with my life, from postdoc to career and professional, I was given boosts by other people, like mentors who saw something in me and in my ability that I couldn't see for myself as well. And I was also touched and blessed by the people around me. And then the work that I do now, it is in service of people, not just our students and our postdocs in my world, but by the teams that work with me on an everyday basis. When you're in that giving role, when you're in that role where you are helping other people, the surest way of feeling completely burnt out is if you were trying to do it all yourself. We're all not trying to be martyrs.
Very true, very true.
So having a good team, having great colleagues who are helpful and kind and empathetic makes a huge world of a difference for me to feel like I'm being supported and for me to feel like I can keep doing the work, which is good work and great quality work. So at the thread and the backbone of what has sort of framed my entire experience in life so far has been with people. That's what I enjoy about spoken word poetry. That's what I enjoy about music. If I could play in a band, I would, but I'm not that good. But just that thread of human connectivity as someone with a creative sphere, I can't imagine doing it all on an island. So yes, there are moments where I can do bad all by myself.
And you do?
And I can do it, but I drastically enjoy doing it in company and in good company as well.
Right. That's interesting because you said the key thing, right? When you try to do it by yourself, you get that burnout. And I know me, like I experience that because sometimes I feel like when it's too many cooks in the kitchen, like it can slow the process down, or like my vision won't come through the way I see it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I got this. Like I got it. Y'all just you're here, but I got this, and let me run the show. Right. So if you've been successful at it, sometimes it's hard to shake that, right? Ooh. Until you got that moment where it's like, I really can't do this. Like I could, but the product wouldn't be as good as it could be with the whole group of people. And I know, like, there's this saying, like, if you want to get there fast, you'll go by yourself. But if you want to go far, you want to get it best, you'll go with a team, right? Yeah. Like I think when you hear it at first, it's like sometimes in the world now where everything is so quick, you want to get there fast. So it's like, let me do it by myself. But when you want to see the results, and the best results, you need other people. But even like in lab work, how do you shape that moment? Like sometimes I'm sure when you were in the lab, it was stuff where you needed to rely on people, and it was like, if I just had this info, I could get this done so much quicker. Like, how do you shape that and navigate that space sometimes?
I think it comes down to one word that, as a lifelong student, it has been the answer to what you just mentioned, which is, if I do it by myself and I'm on my island and I can do it faster, sure. That's one perspective. That's just my perspective. How do I learn? And the only way to learn is for me to learn from multiple perspectives. The best part of me working with other people, whether it has been in the lab or with senior students who guided me with my experiments, or if it's with my boss, or even from mentees, folks that are much younger than I am or more inexperienced in that work than I have been, I can always learn something from them. So for me, that's the joy that I get, is what can I learn from this person, their perspectives. And if I'm able to learn, then ultimately the product is going to get better, because we always say, like, diversity moves innovation forward. And so if we have diverse thoughts, different folks at the table, different people that we interact with, then ultimately the end goal of me wanting to have a high quality outcome is dependent on those learning moments with other people as well. So that's sort of been my driving motivation to want to work for teams. I've always advocated for teams. I've always wanted to have teammates. I love the camaraderie that comes with working with other people when we're all working towards a shared goal and shared vision. It's so exciting. We co-creating something. And again, goes back to that human connectivity that to me matters. And to others, it may not matter. We all have different work styles. And we all have different, sort of goals for how we want to get things done. But for me, the joy comes from like learning from other people. If I could learn something from even this conversation today, then I'll show up. Like I will put in the work and I will get out of my comfort zone and I'll want to grow and I'll want to learn.
Yeah, we like that. Learning, lifelong learners. Continue to learn. There's always a chance to learn. We like that. And I like how you even said, like, even my mentees, right? Though I can learn from them as well, right? Because sometimes they have those fresh thoughts. Some stuff we've been doing for a while, that's always worked, but there could be something out there that could be new and innovative. So we like that. I like that. Clifton, how do you think about that, right? I know you do a lot of work with a lot of different people, but I'm sure it's been those moments where you're like, I definitely could get this done if I didn't have to wait on this email.
Yeah, I was just talking with some of our student peer educators, and I had talked about like my reason for getting into higher ed was not to do it all myself. It was to help students in doing it for themselves. And so that's even my approach in how I coach folks. I don't have the answer. I have a variety of answers that you can take at your own leisure to use to your advantage to move forward in whatever way possible, right? And so in that work, I shared with the student that my goal is to help you think about how we can do this together, because I could do it by myself, but it's going to be missing some things that might be better, right? I could easily throw a workshop together and facilitate it and be dynamic, right? But how do we elevate it into a new experience that is even more dynamic than we could ever imagine?
Right.
I did an event with a student group. They were hoping to do a vision board activity. I was like, that's cute, let's do that. But then I was like, are there other ways that we could elevate this? And so we did a vision bingo, which is really cool. And another student was like, how come we don't do more of these? I was like, say less. And so I think it's how do you take new perspectives, i.e. we can learn and add to it, but then also we have perspectives that we can share and add to the conversation too. So I think that's the challenge, is that we don't give ourselves space and time to do it. And sometimes we think we have to get it done now.
Right.
But do we really? Right? What's the harm in taking a pause to move forward? And I think that's the challenge. People oftentimes just want to get things done and not really pause and move forward. And it makes me think about even, you talked about like lab work and, how do we explore the opportunity to connect with people? You have an interest in doing that. And I wonder about, like, from either of your perspectives on folks who are introverts and how they might adjust, especially like maybe a first year or second year student in college. They might not have had an opportunity to learn more about what a mentor or sponsor is, or what's the power of a collaboration, or, how do you help them do what we're talking about, and knowing that there's opportunities for growth when you work with others, because what is that thing that they can get from working with others that is not just getting the project done and achieving the goal, but there are some other things. What do you think about how can we influence those introverts to get this work done in this way?
I would say that perspective is different because I'm far from an introvert. I'm an extrovert, right? But I think I've heard somebody say, and Clifton, it might have been you, and if it's not you, you probably can take credit for it. But like, first you have to respect that an introvert is an introvert. That is not an issue. Right. It's not a problem, right? I think sometimes it's always looked at like you're introverted, like we got to fix that. You got to go talk to people. But the same way you need those people who are outgoing and charismatic, you also need those people who sometimes quiet and assess things and observant, and then they speak up and do what they need to do. So I think we have to realize like there's a space for introverts as well as extroverts, right? Yeah. But what I think, right, because I can't relate, I'm an extroverted person. For an introvert, when it comes to that element of collaboration, when it comes to that element of you have to work as a team, they have to, kind of know where their strengths lie, right? I find comfort in my strengths, right? For me, I'm a person, I like to talk, I like to be on the mic, I like to be front and center, so I find comfort in that space, right? Now, when it comes to planning and the project management piece, I don't find comfort in that, but that's where I rely heavily on I've learned to rely heavily on my team right now. So I think one, we have to really help an introverted person really find out what their strengths are, and then they can understand how they can add value to a project. If I know how I can add value and where I'm strong at, then I'm more inclined to speak up in that space. All right, once we do that, hopefully we get them around a good community of people, a lot of people who work well together, and their personalities as people, not necessarily from the work side of things, but just from camaraderie, friendship, teamwork, that can help pull them out even more, right? So I think first is helping them understand their strengths, right? And allowing them to lead in that space, and in that way, and only that way, right? I mean, we'll push them in other directions, but we say, hey, if you're the person who you take great notes, I'm gonna let you lead and be the note taker and get confident in a note. When somebody tries to take notes in your space, I need you to speak up and say, hey, I got the notes, right? I want you to, and be confident in that space. So then once you start to speak up in those spaces, you're more comfortable in other opportunities to speak up and show.
Yeah, I agree that there's value in having all sorts of people. You have the introverts, you have the extroverts, you have the ambiverts, you have the extrovert that's masking as an introvert, the introvert that's masking as an extrovert. We have all sorts of folks with all sorts of styles around us. And I think, yes, there are moments where it can cause tension and friction, like it does with just working with different kinds of people. But I think there's so much strength in that level of diversity as well. I don't know if my thoughts center around helping introverts so much as gaining from what they have to also offer on their end. For instance, I'm an extrovert and my partner is a high introvert, and I can see the benefits of the being able to go home and recharge, not wanting to meet with people, having downtime. I want to just play my PlayStation and I don't want anyone to talk to me. And I think there's such a stillness in that as well that I can also learn from. And then I know I could be a high energy, like let's do this, let's go here, impulsive or spontaneous in so many ways. And in that way, I think that's why it also works, is because there is that balance. Right. So if you extrapolate that to a workplace, and exposing folks to getting a little bit outside of their shell, I think even low stakes way of doing that, like sharing that we don't all have to go out in big, large groups and public spaces and network. Let's use that as an example. It can happen on a one-to-one basis. You can be having a conversation, let's say on an informational interview on LinkedIn with just one person. It doesn't have to be going into a big room of 100 people and saying, hey, everyone, I've arrived. There is that, low stakes way of framing this as do it your way. Do what makes you feel comfortable in you and in your shoes and in your skin. So we all stand to learn from each other. And if we just take a little bit more time, I think, to observe the people around us, to get to understand what might be their communication style, or get to understand what makes people's strengths sort of come to the surface. How do we extract that, whether you're an introvert or extrovert, or whether you're masking, or whether you're completely antisocial as well. Like we can learn how to work with those people. And I think, again, that's going to create less tension, if there is any tension within teams, less sort of misalignment as well, and more of a camaraderie and more of a feel of we're all in this together ultimately, So that's my take on introvert, extrovert. I've noticed that as I've gotten older, I too am becoming introverted.
Yes. Yeah, that's a fact.
I don't know what it is. What
I'm
it
an
is.
ambivert now, I would
Right?
say. Yeah.
I would. I'm starting to lean that way too a little bit, right?
It's
like I
interesting.
enjoy, like you said, that stillness and
Yeah.
that ability to have nothing to do and be okay
Yeah.
with it. Like I'm
Amazing.
just really starting to lean into that because it's great, right? Like I can just move how I want, because before it was like I always had something. I needed to do something. Like the people needed to see me. They needed to know I was here. And like now I'm like, I'll pass.
Yeah,
I'm
same.
good.
You know what that is? I think that's just becoming more comfortable in your own skin and secure in the strengths that one brings. Now, you asked me to go to a party that I would have wanted to go to in the past. I'm like, give me a fleece blanket, Netflix, and I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm solid. I don't have the energy for it. I need time to replenish, and then I shall go to whatever party you're inviting me to.
I actually got a lot of fulfillment on Saturday night. My partner went to a game night, and at first I was like, oh, I wish I could have gone. But then I was like, I actually really enjoyed reading the rest of this book I was reading. And I was like, wow, this is fit and it's helping me to want to continue to read. And so I'm picking up a book tonight to continue my reading journey instead of always having to do something and be out and about in the streets. I haven't been out in the streets in a minute. Yeah. And so it's been good to just be to myself and enjoy that time, but also knowing that's filling me up so that I can do all the things that I know that I want to do and I am doing in a variety of other components. And so I want to welcome you into the conversation on how we can help our listeners really do this work of really working through challenges, everyday challenges, to grow and to be their best selves. And so is there something that you practice for yourself or something that you think that could be good for our listeners to really act on this conversation and take action on it?
I unknowingly put myself in situations that are extremely uncomfortable. We've all heard that saying, right? Like, growth comes from getting out of your comfort zone. I live by it. You won't believe this, but when I first had the opportunity to leave India and go and study, it was first in New Zealand. I forgot to mention that earlier. That was for my master's. I would hesitate to go up to a restaurant and take away and actually have a conversation. I would hesitate because I was so self-conscious about me coming from India and me navigating this new country. Very little confidence in general. And I would hesitate to pick up the phone and make a reservation. It really scared me for some reason. I was paralyzed by that fear. And I don't know where that came from. I had that all my life with school. Now, y'all are talking to me and I'm pretty wordy at the moment. So that's obviously changed. So what changed? I think it was realizing and coming into my own. That obviously helped. Getting confident in my abilities, that obviously helped. Self-acceptance and that radical acceptance of who I am, that authenticity piece definitely helped. But then the moment I started challenging myself, putting myself completely way out of my comfort zone, the less intimidating it got. So I mentioned earlier doing these music performance at open mic nights and things like that. That all started in New Zealand, and I had an amazing group, a community of folks from all over the world, and we lived in this one house, the International House. And every Tuesday night we would go to a place where you could go up on stage and you could sing. And it took me maybe 6 months to get up the courage to go up there and sing with the encouragement and push from all my friends at that International House. The more I did it, the less self-conscious I got. The more I got uncomfortable, the better I got. So that was the beginning of everything in terms of getting out of my comfort zone. And then when I came here to the US, just going into a graduate program itself was completely new, because the way I was taught to think wasn't critical thinking in that way all my life. It was more memorization and rote learning. So it was the first time that I had to learn how to think like a scientist or think like an engineer, ask right questions. And it was like taking a fish and putting them out of the water, and then you learn to swim. Every opportunity since, even applying for my job here at Hopkins, was a challenge in getting out of my comfort zone. When I saw the job description, I had to Google what stakeholder meant. I had to read through it and say, I'm barely 30-40% matched to the job description. Why am I even applying? And it was a mentor at that time who said, give it a try. And it was actually my boss from my previous job. Give it a try, see where it leads you. Another exercise in getting out of my comfort zone and pushing myself out of my limits. So in tackling...
And thank you for doing it.
In tackling these big problems, it has never felt easy, even going up on stage or talking or being here. It's I'm very self-aware of my body language. Am I open? I'm constantly thinking about the different perceptions around me, right? And then I have to quickly eliminate those thoughts and say, it's just a conversation, or I'll figure it out, or I've done the hard things before, I can do hard things again. So I would say continuously challenge yourself to do hard things. Then you'll find out at the other side of it that you've developed the skill sets to handle it. it's improved your confidence, and you can choose to do other hard things, and then that becomes less intimidating. Another example, small example, is going to gym. For the longest time, I was like, I'm not going because I don't know how to use the equipment. I'm too intimidated to sit there and figure out in front of established people in the gym how I'm supposed to use this particular machine. And then I thought, oh my God, each one of these people started from somewhere. And then now they're all buffed and look great. So they all started out with the same frame, you know. So just try and challenge yourself. So for me, that would be something I've embodied in my life, and that's what I encourage in my child. Just try a new food, try karate, try drums, try. And more you try, the more you'll find what works for you, and the less scary it will be.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I like how you said try new food. I'm not there yet. I try a few different things. I don't know if I'm ready to try some new foods. I did try oysters, though. I won't try them again.
I have too many intolerances, but I still try. Like, my first time trying Thai food was in New York City in grad school, and I love it. Like, I just love it. But I am a creature of habit. But so. Maybe there's something else I need to try.
Yeah, something else.
Like, go to the restaurant, look at the menu, say, I'm going to try something new. And then you get up there and say, I'm going to get the same thing. That's me.
Try one bite. That's it.
Well, this has been wonderful. I'm wondering, as we wrap up, where do we grow from here?
Yeah, I think a lot of good stuff has been shared. I would say the one way from all of the things that we talked about that we could continue to grow is to continue to desire to want to learn, right? I think we talked a lot about working together and how we understand from other people, and we can learn how they approach different things, different problems, different challenges, different obstacles, just from simply being in the space with them, collaborating on something, things like that, and picking up different pieces and things that they do. So I would say the one way to grow from here is that we got to continue to want to learn.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you.
So I probably sum it up with a quote that stuck out to me, and I had to remember who said it. Abraham Maslow said it. We all know the Maslow hierarchy of needs. And it says, at any given moment, we have two options: to step forward and grow, or to step backwards into safety. And so if that's the case, then we shall choose growth over safety.
I like that.
Yeah. The thing that I wondered about growth was confirmation, because sometimes when you're making steps towards growth and just trying things out, sometimes it is uncomfortable, and you're like, why not? And so this to me today is confirmation. And so sometimes just trying it out, and maybe the confirmation will come of your growth opportunities that are going to really help you towards your future. So don't be scared. Know that there's a reason for the season. Well, thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to growing with you.
Thanks for listening. We hope you got something from today's episode. Take time to grow with us and share your own growth journey in the comments, in reviews, or on social media using the hashtag WeGrowing.